Today, we are touring the Jack Daniel's Distillery with my brother-in-law Robert and my husband Cece. The Jack Daniel's Distillery is located in Lynchburg, Tennessee. It has been placed in the National Register of Historic Places. Jack Daniel's is the oldest registered distillery in the U.S. And Lynchburg is the famous place where Jack Daniel crafted the recipe for Old No. 7. It is where the pure iron-free Cave Spring water flows and where every drop of Jack Daniel's Tennessee Sippin' whiskey is still made today. According to Jack Daniel's biographer, the origin of the Old No. 7 brand name was the number assigned to Jack Daniel's Distillery for government registration. Jack Daniel was forced to change the registration number when the federal government redrew the district, and he became number 16 in District 5 instead of number 7 in District 4. However, he continued to use his original number as a brand name since the brand reputation had already been established. Lynchburg is located in Moore County, which has been dry since Tennessee enacted the Prohibition laws in 1910. The Jack Daniel's 1904 Gold was released in celebration of the distillery's gold medal for the finest whiskey in the world at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. The Belle of Lincoln was the name given to a new brand of whiskey that was made by Jack Daniel's Distillery in the 1890s. This commemorative bottle was personally created by Jack Daniel. The next area was dedicated to Nearest Green. He was an African-American head distiller, today more commonly referred to as master distiller. Born into slavery and emancipated after the American Civil War. He is known for teaching his distilling techniques to Jack Daniel, founder of the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey Distillery. The mash for Jack Daniel's is composed of 80% corn, 12% rye, and 8% malted barley, and is distilled in a copper stills. The next exhibit is Art and CHAR Hancock's collections. As a couple, Art and CHAR Hancock embraced his life's work as the first marketing person Jack Daniel's ever had. He was hired by the Matlows and pioneered the notion that Lynchburg, the place and its people, were essential ingredients to the making of Jack Daniel's. Their love of Lynchburg led CHAR and Art to spend a lifetime preserving its past and assembling the collections which they graciously donated to the Jack Daniel's Distillery. Here, you can turn a classic gift of spirits into something even more memorable with an engraving. You can get your engraved Jack Daniel's bottle delivered to your front door. Or you can order your custom engraved Jack Daniel's whiskey online. When Jack was a little boy, he started working for a Lutheran minister who was also making whiskey. And our tour guide is going to tell us a story on how Jack Daniel got started making whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
So Jack was the youngest of 10, and you do not want to be the youngest of 10 in a poor family in the American South in the 1850s if you're trying to do something with your life. And Jack was born that way. He wanted to be big. He wanted something special. And then also, there's probably kind of a negative vibe in the family. The reason the mother died, complications from Jack's birth, is why she passed away. So Dan Call, not even 18, was a young husband, had a young wife with a baby daughter, Mary Jane and Rebecca. And then also was a store owner. He ran like a goods and general store near his home. He was also a pretty good time, big size farmer. He was also a whiskey maker. master and a whiskey maker. That does not work out when the temperance movement fires up. So about 1865 and temperance becomes a thing and people get really mad about alcohol. They go to Dan and they say, nope, you can't do both. You gotta pick one. He picked the ministry. And then Jack became his outlet. He took over the operation. So Jack turns to Nearest, and he says, Nearest, you're so good at this. You taught me so much about it. But you want to continue making whiskey together? Nearest Green says yes to it and becomes the first hired man of the Jack Daniel's Distillery. And we're talking 1865 American South. So very unique relationship between those two guys. But Jack would have focused on ownership, sales, that sort of thing. Nearest Green would have been considered our first or original master distiller up until Jack moved. So all this original stuff was not here. It was down to the south of the Dan Call farm. And so we actually made whiskey down there until 1881. And then as far as making the charcoal, it takes about 2 hours to get to this right here. You have to know what you're doing. This is the hardest way to make charcoal there is. But Jack did it open air, so we do it open air. So right out there underneath the hood there, with all that wood sitting around. So they stack the ricks correctly first off. You see how these are built? You would think they're nailed or glued together. They are not. Those are built without nails or glue. It's just gravity holding them together. But
wow.
They're built like a giant Jenga game. In fact, they're hand stacked into that stack. It's called a rick. It's a measurement of wood. But those are seasoned for about 6 months to dry down. Notice how they stack them underneath the bed. They got that lean at the top. That's going to collapse on itself roughly an hour into the burn. So in real time, about an hour in, it drops. Get it with water. Seems simple. Hard spot. Too much water too soon, unburned wood. Too little water too late, ashy. But if you know what you're doing to do it right, 2 hour time, you can try it. And the guys that do it are very good at it because they've been doing it forever. So Tracy is the ball cap. Ball cap is doing this right for 2 years. Darren's the Western style of cat. He's been doing it for almost. And if you drank Jack Daniels or seen Jack Daniels in any country in the world in the past 15 to 16 years, you saw or drank whiskey that went through charcoal that Darren and Tracy produced. They're the only two ones. It's not trademarked yet, if you got the right thing. But they put it in a spray container similar to this, just bigger, and they hit it in the middle of the ricks, and they hit it with a lighter, and rock and roll. And that's it. It's like a self-made blowtorch, basically. So up here around the corner, it's the reason we showed up in Lynchburg, Tennessee. It's the water source. We changed our whiskey. So when we change our location, we change our water. We change our product. Jack made whiskey outside. This was what he stood underneath. We didn't blast this out. We did not cut this out. So you're standing exactly where Jack made whiskey from 1881 to 1909, and that was his roof. Wow. Yeah. And then Prohibition happened, and then eventually we get that repealed, and we start making whiskey again, and that's when we started building that stuff. Because the thing about Lynn Montlow, Jack's nephew, he always tried to convince his uncle to go big. His uncle didn't want to, and then Lynn did. And so Lynn started building big. And so a big difference between us and Jack as far as how we make it. And so Jack rarely opened his own office, even though this was his office at headquarters. That was the job of his office.
That was office.
Jack's death in a way, so we'll talk about that. What you're walking on is the same floor that Jack used to walk on in the 1880s. So this is the oldest building we've got. It's the original floor. It's the same safe that killed Jack. Wild. So history in here is off the charts. This was the headquarters of Jack Daniels from the 1880s when Jack built it until they retired it out in the mid-1950s. The only thing I know that is not original in here is this piping right here off the stove because it rusted out and they wanted to replace it. So those are Jack's great nephews. That's Rager, Robert, Connor, and Hap that lived around the area and ran the show. So the way it worked, Jack Daniel, 1860, that man could have thrown this thing away and gotten rid of it because he had 29 years of prohibition and he couldn't even make Jack Daniels. So he said, well, I'm going to wait. And he waited 29 years. According to the story, Jack Daniel kicked his safe and it caused infection on his foot and eventually caused his death. He actually funded the building of every church in Moretown, Tennessee, except for one, because there wasn't set funds for this. But he funded every church except one. So Jack, like these three men, are Jack's nephews. Two of which are the important ones, no offense to you, Dave, but the Motley brothers, his brother Eli. But to have a photograph that has nearest green son and Jack Daniels' family sitting right there in the middle tells you a lot. That photograph was taken in 1904 American South. It's the oldest photograph we've got of Jack with his crew, and he chooses to put these 4 guys right here. So he puts himself there with these men surrounding him, and that means a lot as far as who is who and what they mean to him.
So which one is Jack again?
This one.
Right there, okay.
Yep. There's no existing photograph of nearest green son. So when you look at the history and you see the photos, it always starts with George. And so up to present day, the family's not found one. I doubt they'll ever find one, sadly. But that's another reason that's so precious to him. And then when you think about an integrated photograph taken in 1904 American South, that's also historically just a significant thing to have. But when you're talking our brand, you're talking personal history. That's family history. There you go. So going from Jack, he would have been the second master distiller when Nearest Green retired. That's when Jack moved, and so Nearest didn't want to go to Lynchburg. He wanted to live in Mulberry, and he just didn't want to go. He would have been almost 70 by that time, so he had his reasons. So Jack Dane to his nephew Jess Motlow to Lynn Tyler to Jess Gamble to Frank Bobo to Jimmy Bedford to Jeff Arnett to Chris Fletcher. So Chris Fletcher is our newest master distiller. He's the grandson of this master distiller. He actually works in his granddad Frank Bobo's old office. And then the Bobo family married into the Motlows, the nephews of Jack. And so Chris's legacy is very, very, very deep. But Chris is the head of production, quality control, and innovation. That's his job. And then every day we make it. We'll make it the best we can. That's our mission statement. That's how we operate the distillery. Those were Jack's words. We just do that. That's it. Started wanting some Jack Daniels. And so we were starting to grow our percentage of sales 300% a year in the 1956 basically because of one man. Frank was such a catalyst to the brand. And so with that, I said, well, we can't do it. We're growing too quick. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the capital. We need help.
So in 1956, the Jack Daniels Distillery was purchased by the Brown-Forman Corporation of Louisville, Kentucky. The acquisition cost $20 million, but this deal confirmed that Brown-Forman's movement away from being a company that only produced bourbon.
You can just bend down and kind of peel it off if you want.
Now, what cost that?
That comes off of ethanol. So ethanol feeds that fungus. That fungus grows on everything it can.
So it can't be good for your guest.
What's that?
Going in. So what's in here?
This is all the Cooper stuff, top barrels.
Oh.
And then we'll go through a bottom line. Now watch this. It'll help you out understanding how the whiskey making barrel, or sorry, the barrel making works. Then we'll talk more about this after.
Here at Jack Daniels, we don't put our whiskey in barrels. We entrust it to them. You see, a good barrel is more than a container for the whiskey. It's really an ingredient. All of the whiskey's color and a good part of its flavor are drawn from the barrel. That's why we go to the extra effort to make our own, crafted from American white oak. The rough staves are cut from the trunk and left to season in the open air. The simple seasoning of the wood prepares the oak to contribute to the character of the whiskey. Next, the staves are carefully planed, cupped on one side, and the joints cut at a slight angle. A mistake here, the barrel will leak, giving the angels more than their fair share. Now the staves go to the barrel raiser. Yes, barrels are raised, not built. The cooper fits together by hand staves of different widths, like puzzle pieces. 33 staves to the barrel. A seasoned barrel maker will raise 250 barrels a day. Now it's time for toasting, the crucial step to crafting a barrel that will impart the greatest flavor. Toasting releases much of the flavor locked inside the wood, such as our distinctive vanilla accent. Our barrel is now ready for the roar of a char tunnel's flame. As it passes through the fire, the natural sugar in the wood caramelizes. More flavor for the whiskey to draw from. Finally, the craftsman prepares the barrel for its head. The hoops are put on, the bunghole drilled, the barrel tested for leaks, and inspected under a cooper's watchful eye. At long last, the barrel is ready to receive its whiskey. It'll go in clear with a hint of flavor, but emerge mature with a rich amber color and a warm, robust taste we all know as Jack Daniels.
Barrel, about 10 to 15% after 5 to 7 years in the barrel. It's about 2% every year. And they call that the angel shape. So if you've ever heard that term, that's what that is. That's the evaporation that rises to the heavens and angels are there for it. But that's what these are doing. So all your color, most of your flavor, from the way you toast the char, the white oak, and there you go. #1 ingredient. And then since we use it never once, and we sell them, and we make a bunch of whiskey, we've got a lot of barrels to sell. So you do have a lot of wineries buying them, a lot of vineyards. You've also got them sold for like patio furniture and decorative pieces and stuff. But most of our barrels go to the country of Scotland to make Scotch whiskey. Scotch whiskey buys roughly 80% of Jack Daniels used barrels. And then the other 20%, we're talking Irish whiskey, rum, tequila, beer, cider, wine, Tabasco sauce, grilling products, and it goes on and on.
This is the bottling area where they label and box all the Jack Daniels whiskey that are going through the conveyor line.
So 1938 built. This renovation was 2015, 2016 or so.
Start using out if y'all are ready.
So all these are empty.
Empty barrels.
One of many ways to recycle barrels. Decorative pieces. So this was built by Lynn Monroe back in 1938.
Wow.
Hey, these are the empty.
That end down there is full. It's empty. This one's not. So that first end, about 600 barrels in the job, and then this end's all for sure. Because they want a cool sample.
We hope you enjoyed touring the Jack Daniels Distillery in Lynchburg, Tennessee. If you are visiting Tennessee and near Lynchburg, we highly recommend you stop by and visit this amazing facility. If you'd like to see more of our travel video, click the thumbs up and the subscribe button below. Until next time, we wish you many happy trails with your family. Thank you.